32-year-old mother, 32-year-old nurse, 3 children, a husband, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old, all strangled. The 5-year-old and the 3-year-old died immediately on the scene. 7-month-old, I believe, fighting for his life. And you jump out the window to commit suicide. Mental health or demonic? Stay tuned for the rest of this video. It's Angel the Psych MP. Welcome back to my channel. On this channel, we talk about all things nursing as well as all things mental health. I like to do this series that is called Mental Health versus Demonic because I do believe that everything that comes across your news feed is not mental health. And a lot of us like to blame everything on mental health. In today's case, we have a 32-year-old labor and delivery nurse who basically killed her 2 children, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and she strangled the 7-month-old, which I think I read that he passed away, but nevertheless, the 5-year-old and the 3-year-old passed away, and she tried to jump out of the window of her home, but she survived as well. So it is being said that she had made some claims about possibly having some postpartum depression. She potentially recognized the symptoms, but maybe as a labor and delivery nurse, she felt like she had everything under control. They said that she started working out and that she had even made some Facebook posts said that it was helping out. What is postpartum depression? So when we all have babies, everybody doesn't experience it, but some people experience something called the baby blues, which is completely normal, where you're just very tearful about everything, usually mainly with your first child, but very tearful about things, and it's very normal. But after that, somewhere between 2 and 6 weeks, and this is really kind of the reason, from my understanding, for that follow-up, those appointments after you have a baby, you have those follow-up appointments. It's to check you physically, but it's also to check for postpartum depression. Some doctors will tell you this, but some won't. But it's really to kind of check for postpartum depression to make sure you're not feeling so depressed, or if you are, that they can treat it, get you on an antidepressant or something to kind of get you over the hump of, the postpartum depression. But left untreated, postpartum depression can turn into postpartum psychosis. Now, psychosis is when you're having a hard time determining what's real and what's not. And it usually comes in the form of hallucinations, either audio, when you're hearing things that are not there, or that no one else can hear, or when you're seeing things that nobody else can see. Or sometimes it's tactile, which is sometimes you feel like things are crawling on you and there's nothing really there. So that is what psychosis is. And then in this case, it is being assumed that she had postpartum psychosis. So with her initially saying that she was on her Facebook page, apparently, or allegedly, that she said, she was having some postpartum depression, or she was just feeling down, or whatever it is that she specifically wrote. And now that her baby is 7 months, we're assuming that maybe she had some postpartum psychosis. So this is the effect of postpartum depression untreated, and now you have postpartum psychosis. So there is potential that she was hearing some voices that was telling her to do what she did, or she was seeing some things, or delusions. Maybe I've read stories, recent, a case in California where this lady, was believing that her child was like possessed or demonic, and she thought she was doing the world a favor by, getting rid of the demon. It is delusions. So we don't know what she was experiencing, but there's a lot of, speculation that she is having some postpartum psychosis. Now, there's a lot of talk online about if she was a labor and delivery nurse, why didn't she recognize the signs, or why didn't she get help? And they're basically, charging her like she need to go to jail for the rest of her life. And the legal part of it is I'm not concerned about. It's not my issue. I'm just want to bring awareness to the mental health part of it. And I think that if she really was experiencing postpartum psychosis, then I myself want to give her some grace. When she gets on the medication, to proper medication to help her deal with, you know, the psychosis, if she's experiencing that, when she stabilized on those medications and she actually realizes what happened and what she did, she's going to also probably still be suicidal. They're probably going to have her in the suicide watch in prison, in the tanks, or, you know, whatever each prison call it. But they'll have her on that because when she realizes what she did, all of the pictures, everything indicated that she was such a great mother, that she was enjoyed being a mother. But she, you know, she had her kids like kind of back to back, you know, 3 kids all under the age of 5. I'm really interested to know if she had some depression with the first kid, the second kid, you know, what the situation is. I feel horrible for her. Obviously, I feel horrible for the kids who are no longer with us. Like, it's just so much on that family in general. The husband, you know, losing his wife, losing his 2 children. It's just a lot. And postpartum depression can happen to any woman. It's not necessarily that, you know, something she did wrong or whatever. It could happen to any of us. There's no known cause for it, but they're assuming things like just the imbalance of hormones, you know, all out of whack when you have a baby. You know, right after you have a baby, all your hormones are out of whack. Potentially, if she has some depression before, you know, if there's a family history of depression, there could be a lot of different reasons, but there is no scientific or, you know, reason that they could say, okay, if you have this, and that, then you can have postpartum psychosis. There's nothing like that. Nobody can pinpoint and say what causes cancer, and nobody can pinpoint and say what causes postpartum. There's only assumptions. I mean, I know for me, even when my cycle's on, my Dr. Jekyll, Mrs. Hyde, depending on the day or whatever it is. So, and you know, your hormones are off when your cycle is on too. You imagine after having a baby, how everything is. So your mood is dysregulated. And depending on whatever else you got going on in your life, we just don't know. What's really alarming for me is that, you know, I do understand the severity of what she did. But these are the things with mental health that happens on social media and stuff like this, where people just don't understand mental health, and then they just automatically turn people into a monster. I don't believe by any means that this lady was a monster, just based on the little bit of information that we do have presenting around the case. I do believe that she was potentially suffering from postpartum psychosis. Is that, you know, is giving her grace going to bring her children back? No, she will have to do her time in jail for that. But the mental health part of it is that we should be a little bit more understanding of mental health. Now, what if somebody else is having some postpartum depression right now, and they're watching this on the news and they're reading the comments? People get scared to open up about things because of fear of being judged, or fear of people making fun of them, or a whole bunch of different things. And we need to change that. I would 100% bet that her being a labor and delivery nurse, that when she, and just being a nurse in general, that when she started really hearing voices or something, if she wanted to open up about it, she probably was scared. She probably was scared with fear of, like, what will people think of me? Like, what will happen to my career if I start telling people that I'm hearing voices? But your initial thoughts is how am I going to function like this? Like, can I work like this? It's fear. It's fear driven when you start having those mental health breaks. And people think it's just so easy to go and get help, and it's not. It's not that easy to just go and get help. And I know it should be. But a lot of y'all, the reason why people don't want to go get help because of fear of being judged, or fear of people just taking it the wrong way. On one of my first videos that I made, I asked the question of like, what would you do if your best friend or somebody came up to you and said, hey, I'm hearing voices? Some people had a right response. I'll say I'll go get some help. But in my experience of like working in environments and listening to different people like to take it for granted or think that, man, you tripping, what drugs you taking in our nobody wants to hear that. If I'm coming to you and I'm telling you that I'm hearing voices or seeing things, I want you to help me, either take me to a crisis unit, the nearest crisis unit, or something along those lines. But I definitely don't want to hear, man, you on drugs or you drunk or something like that. Because guess what? I'm going to shut back down. We have to be more open and considerate of people when they're having real mental health issues. This video, you know, my series on this channel about mental health versus demonic, I definitely think hers was mental health. But I will say this, it starts out as mental health. I've already expressed on this channel that I think that the having suicidal thoughts and, you know, can be caused by, you know, severe depression, chemical imbalances, all those type of things, medications. But I also feel that the actual act of the attempt is demonic. I think that is, you know, just the devil getting in and really just trying to take you over the edge. And, you know, that's just my personal opinion about it. Not taking away from it is, you know, is mental illness can cause that for some people. I'm really interested to see if we'll ever hear it. I don't know if we ever hear her take on what led up to these events. Was she hearing voices? Was she hearing voices from demons telling her to do that? And the reason why I make that distinction is because I work in a prison setting, and you have people who say that they're hearing voices. But then you also have another group of people that says that they're hearing, the demons are telling them to do something like that. And I'm wondering, like, why is there a distinction? Like, you could hear voices. Everybody could report that they're just hearing voices. But why do specific people report hearing, you know, voices from demons? I believe in demons. I don't know about you. I believe in angels as well. I don't know about you. But could she have been, like, I don't know. And I'm giving my fellow coworker, I don't know her personally, but, you know, she's a nurse. I'm a nurse first before a nurse practitioner. And I'm giving her grace because I do know that postpartum depression is a very, very serious illness that a lot of people don't talk about, a lot of people don't know about, because until something like this happens. I think the statistics are somewhere along the lines of maybe like 20% of women experience like postpartum depression. Now, the postpartum psychosis is very rare. I think it was somewhere between every 1 in 3 pregnancies is out of 1,000 experience the postpartum psychosis. So it's very rare. But it could, you know, it could be just the potential of the postpartum depression left untreated. So if you're a woman out there, I think that we all should just be, the legal part of it is gonna happen. But let's talk about who she was and what she was experiencing. And as women that are having babies, it could happen to us. And as husbands, boyfriends, baby daddies, whatever you may be grateful that it didn't happen to your wife, girlfriend, or baby mama. But just know that it can happen as we move forward in life, and we're still, you know, mating, you know, mating like we animals, but, you know, that we still out here being humans, that it could happen to us. And you will want somebody to just give you grace as a person. I'm not talking about what she did. She killed her children. Those babies, you know, they were strangled. It's just, it's horrible. But she was sick. She was, you know, the mental illness just got the best of her. So let me know in the comments how you feel about postpartum depression. If you experience postpartum depression, if you know someone who went through postpartum depression, let me know how do you feel about it? Let me know what are your thoughts on this case? The legal part is the legal part. You know, she got to pay for the crime, but the woman who was just experiencing the postpartum depression that led to postpartum psychosis, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments. That is my take on this one. Let me know how you feel about it in the most respectful way that you can. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Angel the Psych MP. Ciao.